So I guess if I was going to speak in the dualistic language game, I would adopt the many worlds interpretation. Um, but again, language doesn't always, or doesn't usually, characterize or have an easy uh, time trying to characterize what reality is in itself, right? So this game of an observer separate from an observed, and somehow they both exist independently, that way of construing the facts may not necessarily be the only perspective to take. Um, there's another perspective, which is that the observer always is connected to what it observes. And this doesn't necessarily mean that we take Heisenberg's position and say that when we observe the wave function, that's when it collapses, and before that it's completely undetermined. We don't have to think that, or we don't have to think like David Bohm and say it's both a particle and a wave, and the wave's piloting the particle like it's a beach ball being pushed ashore by a cresting wave. We can just say that what the experimental results tell us is there's no way for the observer to know what objects are doing independently of their observation. The measurement always interferes with the phenomena that we're trying to measure, and so we never know what it is before we know what it is. It's undetermined to us, though in and of itself it's determined, but we don't necessarily have to make that assumption, because that's it doesn't necessarily follow from the idea that observer and observed are always related. And there's no such thing as a separate event, just like there's no such thing as a separate thing. Everything has a context, and that context is reality. It's just a network of relationships. That's what I draw, at least, out of quantum physics. The philosopher Alan Watts, he said that it's kind of a misnomer to call it quantum mechanics. It's more like quantum organics, because the universe seems to be more like an organism, in that everything within it is connected and serves a common purpose, which is creation or reality or time. And your algorithmic way of understanding reality, I think maybe it neglects time. It's trying to turn quantum theory into a type of mechanics which doesn't take into consideration the directionality of time. Say that at the purely physical material level, it seems like time could flow in either direction and causality wouldn't really be affected. But in the actual living experience of our reality, time seems irreversible. And when you look at just the biological world, somehow it doesn't necessarily disobey the second law of thermodynamics, but it curiously twists it temporarily and allows very far from equilibrium systems to complexify at an indefinite rate for an indefinite amount of time. That's what life is. And so if we live in a universe capable of producing life and consciousness, it seems that time is able to turn what was just matter into something aware. So something that was just dumb stuff colliding, forming these random algorithms, somehow that self-organized and woke up And so somehow this waking up, this ability to observe, is part of what this supposedly material, strictly material universe is capable of. So rather than try to reduce these higher qualities, these emergent properties of this universe, mind, consciousness, and life, I'd rather see them as just intricate parts or integral parts of what this universe is. And that sort of shifts your perspective rather than think of it as just the random outplaying of these codes. See it as also there being a code maker or a consciousness which can somehow guide this process. Maybe they're not in control of the process, but they're related to the process and able, to direct it, like, a sailboat. Can't control the wind, but you can control how you manipulate your sail. And so it seems, there's some freedom and some determinism. That's always the way it plays out whenever we try to talk about this. So, in the end, I kind of like the many worlds interpretation, but there are many ways to then draw further conclusions, and I guess I'm kind of disagreeing with your algorithmic interpretation of it, though if we just take one step back to the general idea of there being determinism, yeah, but also this ability to choose which universe you are going to enact, that seems perfectly reasonable to me. So let me know what you think. I'm going to watch a little bit more of your videos so I get a better idea where you're coming from, but I look forward to your response. Take it easy, man.